Priscilla Presley and her daughter Lisa Marie were no strangers to the spotlight, but nothing could have prepared the world for the shocking twists that unfolded behind closed doors, moments that would ignite a courtroom battle, tear apart a family, and leave fans questioning whether fame, fortune, and legacy had driven a mother to make the unthinkable. The Presley family had always lived under a spotlight brighter than most. From the moment Elvis Presley changed music forever, his name carried a legacy that seemed almost too heavy to bear. For his only daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, that weight never truly went away. She grew up as both an heiress to rock and roll and a woman constantly trying to carve out her own identity. Her life was marked by sudden highs and devastating lows, but nothing prepared the world for the news that came in early January. Lisa Marie had collapsed. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, her life hanging by a thread. Fans around the world watched closely, hoping for a miracle. Inside the hospital, doctors worked to stabilize her. Machines began to breathe for her and regulate her heartbeat. Family members quickly gathered, and at the center of it all was Priscilla Presley, Lisa Marie's mother. She had always been seen as the matriarch of the Presley legacy, the woman who carried Elvis's memory forward after his death. Cameras captured her arriving at the hospital, her face unreadable. To the public, she appeared as a mother standing vigil by her daughter's bedside. Yet what the public couldn't see was the atmosphere behind those doors, an atmosphere filled with unease, uncertainty, and quiet tension. The situation was delicate. Lisa Marie had endured health struggles before, but this time it was different. This time, doctors weren't certain she would ever recover without the machines. It wasn't simply a matter of treatment. It became a question of whether her life could continue in any meaningful way. Every family faces painful decisions when a loved one is on life support, but when that family carries a billion-dollar legacy, nothing is simple. It wasn't just about medicine, it was about power, control, and who had the authority to decide what came next. As the hours stretched on, speculation outside the hospital grew. Fans clutched candles at vigils, singing Elvis songs as if their voices might somehow reach Lisa Marie through the glass of the ICU. Reporters dug for scraps of information, publishing every detail they could find: what medication she was on, which doctors were in charge, who was visiting her room. Each update only fueled more questions, but the biggest question lingered unanswered: who would make the final call about her future? Those who knew the Presley family best understood how fractured things had become in recent years. Lisa Marie's finances were complicated, and so was her trust, the legal document that controlled the family's wealth and the iconic Graceland estate. Behind the scenes, control over this trust had already shifted from mother to daughter, from Priscilla to Lisa Marie, and then to Lisa Marie's own children. That made the moment in the ICU even more intense. If Lisa Marie lived, the family's future would be shaped in one way. If she died, it would be shaped in another. Every decision carried consequences that stretched beyond grief, touching the core of the Presley fortune. As the machines beeped steadily in that hospital room, the world could only wonder what was happening inside. A daughter was fighting for her life. A mother stood nearby, her power and influence as strong as ever. And somewhere between medicine and legacy, a decision loomed that would change the Presley family forever. When the news of Lisa Marie Presley's death broke, grief quickly turned into shock as legal documents began to surface. The Presley name had always been tied to money, fame, and property, but few people realized how complicated those ties had become. Years before her death, Lisa Marie had made changes to her living trust, the document that determined who controlled her estate and what would happen to her share of the Presley fortune. The changes were dramatic. She had removed her mother, Priscilla Presley, as a co-trustee and replaced her with her daughter, Riley Keough. At first glance, it seemed like a straightforward decision. A mother leaving everything to her child, but the move left Priscilla on the outside, and soon after Lisa Marie's passing, that decision was challenged. Priscilla's legal team filed documents in court, questioning the very validity of the trust. She argued that the amendment naming Riley as trustee might not be genuine. According to her claims, the paperwork contained unusual details missing notarization, inconsistent formatting, even a signature that looked slightly off. To many outsiders, these might have seemed like technical issues, but in the world of high-stakes estates, such details could shift control of millions of dollars and priceless cultural property. If Priscilla succeeded, she could once again secure a powerful role in managing not only her daughter's assets, but also the Presley legacy itself. The case drew enormous attention. Reporters pored over every filing, analysts dissected the legal language, and fans speculated about what the documents really meant. Was Lisa Marie's intention truly to give her daughter full authority, cutting her mother out of the picture? Or had someone pushed through a change that she might not have fully approved? These questions became the foundation of a courtroom battle that mixed grief with suspicion. The public wanted answers, but the only clear fact was that generations of the Presley family were suddenly locked in a fight that felt almost unthinkable. What made the situation more unsettling was the timing. The challenge came so quickly after Lisa Marie's death that many people couldn't ignore the sense of urgency. To some, it seemed like a grieving mother seeking clarity. To others, it looked like a calculated move to reclaim power before the trust could be settled firmly under Riley's control. The courtroom itself became another stage for the Presley family drama, a place where lawyers argued over commas, signatures, and intentions while the world waited for a verdict that would shape the future of one of music's most famous dynasties. Despite the pressure, Riley gradually began to assert herself. She consulted with financial advisors, estate lawyers, and family friends, carefully navigating the minefield left behind by decades of complex family dynamics. The case also revealed that Priscilla had been methodical in her preparations, documenting her concerns about the trust years in advance. Some legal experts argued that she had been quietly strategizing for this moment, ensuring that she could challenge the trust effectively. Others maintained that her actions were motivated by love and concern, not ambition. The truth, as often happens in high-profile family disputes, remained ambiguous. Throughout the ordeal, Riley's position became symbolic of a generational shift in the Presley family. Where Priscilla had long represented authority, tradition, and guardianship of the legacy, Riley represented independence, change, and a new perspective on what it meant to inherit fame and fortune. The clash between them highlighted the difficulty of managing both personal grief and public responsibility simultaneously. It was a struggle over power, memory, and identity, one that could have lasting implications not only for the Presley family but for the management of one of the most famous estates in American history. Every decision Riley made carried consequences, and every move by Priscilla added tension to a family already strained by loss. The unfolding drama left the world watching, waiting to see which side of the family would ultimately prevail. When the court finally rendered its decision, it marked a turning point in the Presley family saga. Riley Keough was officially named the sole trustee of her mother's estate, granting her control over not only the financial assets but also the cultural legacy tied to one of music's most iconic names. The ruling brought some sense of closure to the legal dispute, but it left behind a lingering tension that no court order could erase. Priscilla Presley had withdrawn her claims following a confidential settlement, leaving many questions unanswered and fueling speculation about the events leading up to Lisa Marie's death. The world watched closely, trying to piece together what had really happened in the hospital and in the courtroom, even after the legal dust settled. The allegations surrounding Lisa Marie's final days continued to haunt public perception. The idea that Priscilla might have influenced her daughter's medical care to secure control over the estate was never proven, yet the timing of the events created a sense of unease. Observers noted that life support had been removed, and within hours, legal maneuvers began actions that some interpreted as unusually swift. Official statements from doctors maintained that the decision to end life support was based entirely on medical necessity, emphasizing that Lisa Marie had no realistic chance of recovery. Still, in the court of public opinion, the overlap between the medical and financial decisions sparked endless debate. For Riley Keough, the aftermath was a mixture of empowerment and isolation. She now carried the weight of her mother's legacy, a role that required navigating not only complex financial structures but also a family history filled with conflict. Each decision she made had far-reaching consequences, from preserving Elvis's image to managing Graceland and overseeing charitable foundations. At the same time, she faced the delicate challenge of maintaining relationships with relatives who felt slighted or excluded, including Priscilla. The settlement may have resolved the legal questions, but it did little to heal the underlying family fractures, leaving Riley in a position where vigilance and diplomacy were constantly required. The case also prompted wider discussions about power, family, and fame. It highlighted how wealth and celebrity could complicate decisions that, in other families, might have been private or straightforward. Questions about who has the right to make life or death medical decisions, and whether financial motives can influence those choices, took on new urgency. Legal analysts and journalists dissected every detail, from the trust documents to the sequence of hospital events, attempting to draw conclusions where no definitive proof existed. The story became a cautionary tale of how legacy, influence, and human emotion could collide in ways both public and private, leaving scars that extended far beyond the courtroom. Despite the resolution, the most haunting question lingered: did Priscilla Presley play any role in the timing of her daughter's final moments? Official records and medical testimony could provide no definitive answer. What remained was a mixture of fact, speculation, and interpretation, a story that the public would continue to debate for years. The Presley family's saga, marked by extraordinary fame, deep personal loss, and intense legal battles, was forever changed. The bombshell lawsuit had exposed fractures that were previously hidden, leaving a legacy not only of music and stardom but also of mystery, suspicion, and a question that may never be fully answered. The shadow of those final days and the court battle that followed would remain an indelible part of the Presley story, a reminder of how wealth, family, and fame can intertwine in ways both powerful and tragic. Behind the legal language, however, was an unspoken reality. This wasn't just about paperwork. It was about trust, loyalty, and long-standing family tensions that had stretched across decades. Priscilla had always been seen as the guardian of Elvis's legacy, the woman who protected Graceland and kept the Presley name alive. Yet Lisa Marie, in her own way, had fought to carve out independence from her mother's shadow. By naming her daughter Riley as trustee, she might have been sending a message about who she trusted most to protect her wishes. Whether that message was clear or contested became the heart of the unfolding battle, one that left fans and legal experts alike wondering how much of the truth would ever fully come to light. As the lawsuit unfolded, attention inevitably returned to the hospital where Lisa Marie Presley had spent her final days. The intensive care unit was a place of tension and quiet desperation. Medical staff had been responsible for her care, monitoring machines that regulated her heartbeat, breathing, and other vital functions. At the center of it all was Priscilla Presley, whose presence loomed over every decision. Several hospital employees later reported that she had been unusually insistent about the treatment plan, constantly checking on machines, questioning protocols, and pressing doctors for updates. To outsiders, it could have appeared as a mother deeply concerned for her daughter's well-being, but whispers of her assertiveness soon fueled speculation. Some sources suggested that Priscilla had encouraged doctors to consider ending life support sooner than expected. Hospital staff described her as meticulous, reviewing Lisa Marie's medical charts repeatedly and discussing the prognosis in detail with the attending physicians. While no one could confirm her motivations, the rapidity with which decisions were made raised eyebrows. The concern was not only the medical timing but the context. Just hours after Lisa Marie passed, legal motions regarding her estate were already circulating. The sequence of events led observers to wonder whether the medical decisions were entirely about health or if financial considerations had quietly influenced the process. What made the situation even more complex was the level of secrecy surrounding the family. The Presley name had always attracted attention, and privacy was nearly impossible to maintain. Every movement, every hospital visit, and every legal document could be dissected by reporters and fans alike. The combination of public scrutiny and private tension created a volatile environment. While doctors insisted that the decision to remove life support was medical, the public couldn't help but speculate. Priscilla's reputation as the controlling matriarch of the family added fuel to the fire. Many people recalled previous conflicts between her and Lisa Marie, particularly over money, property, and how Elvis's legacy should be managed. The timing of the lawsuit, combined with the allegations about her actions in the ICU, cast a long shadow. It was not uncommon for families to disagree in moments of medical crisis. But in this case, the stakes were amplified by wealth, legacy, and public attention. The narrative that began to form in tabloids and legal analyses suggested a possible intersection of medical ethics and personal ambition. Even among the hospital staff, there was a quiet unease, as if they had been witnesses to more than just a medical emergency. Some feared being dragged into a high-profile legal battle simply for having followed doctors' orders. As the story spread, it became clear that this was more than a tragedy, it was a flashpoint in a much larger family saga. Priscilla Presley's role in her daughter's final hours, whether motivated by concern, control, or a mix of both, became a subject of intense speculation. Every detail of the ICU stay was examined, from the timing of decisions to the actions of medical staff. The public debate blurred the line between grief and suspicion, leaving many to wonder how much influence a parent could wield in a life-or-death situation, and how that influence might intersect with a complex web of money, inheritance, and family loyalty. The tension, secrecy, and unanswered questions created a story that would grip the public imagination for years to come. After Lisa Marie Presley's death and the initial shock of the ICU controversy, the spotlight turned sharply onto her daughter, Riley Keough. At just 34 years old, Riley suddenly found herself thrust into a position of immense responsibility. Not only was she grieving the loss of her mother, but she was also expected to manage the Presley estate, a sprawling network of trusts, properties, and intellectual property worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The legal battle with Priscilla Presley complicated everything, creating tension and uncertainty at a time when clarity and focus were desperately needed. Riley was no stranger to the pressures of fame, but this was a different kind of spotlight, one that combined grief, legacy, and legal maneuvering. Court documents revealed more than just technical disputes over trust forms. They painted a portrait of long-standing friction between Lisa Marie and her mother, Priscilla. For decades, disagreements had simmered over finances, property management, and control of Elvis Presley's image. Lisa Marie had long sought independence from her mother's influence, taking steps to ensure her own children would inherit authority over the family legacy. The trust amendment that placed Riley in control was seen by many legal observers as a deliberate move to protect that independence. The court filings made clear that this was more than a routine estate dispute. It was the culmination of years of family tension, amplified by the extraordinary wealth and fame attached to the Presley name. The courtroom became a stage where every detail of family life was examined and scrutinized. Lawyers argued over signatures, dates, and the validity of the trust documents, while the public followed along with fascination. Reporters analyzed every piece of evidence, from handwritten notes to emails and memos, attempting to determine whether Priscilla had acted out of concern for her daughter or out of a desire to regain control over the Presley empire. The legal battle was intensely personal. yet conducted in a highly public forum, which only heightened the sense of drama. As the case unfolded, Riley's role shifted from daughter and granddaughter to executor and protector, a position she had been unprepared for but now had no choice but to embrace.